fellow Toastmasters, guests. I am helping the club get to President's Distinguished, and so this is one of the educational presentations that we get to choose from in order to get to the next level. I'll be Advanced Communicator Silver after this and one more speech. I thought preparation would be a really good one for us to talk about because it's been the contest season. How many of you have been to any of the contests, either competing yourself or watching them? There's a great one coming up, and I highly encourage all of you to go to the conference if you haven't been yet, because there's some really great speeches. This is a canned presentation to talk about preparation and practicing. How many of you in here have given at least one speech? Just about everybody, even some of our guests have given speeches. That's great. Well, what you want to do is first prepare the room. So where is the lectern and where the audience is going to sit? Basic stuff. Are you going to use a microphone? Right here we don't need one, but in most of the speech contests and bigger rooms you may want to use a microphone, and using it, how to use it is very important. How's the room? Are you going to be able to move around on the stage? Do you have to stand in one position? Will you want to walk out into the audience? Those are all important things to know. And what visual aids are you going to use? Harry just did an outstanding representation of how to use visual aids, building video into the PowerPoint and being able to show us what he was talking about and get us interactive. So, where's the lectern? I highly recommend that you don't tie yourself to the lectern, because if you do, it's going to, generally speaking, be a very boring speech. I've seen speakers that just stand there and hold on to it for dear life. See if you can get more comfortable and move around the room. Where are you going to be able to speak? How's the audience going to be seated? And where is the stage? In a contest, they're going to tell you at the beginning where you can move. And if you move in a space that's not what they've defined as speaking space, you're disqualified. So it's really important to know when you're competing. And then the microphone. Oh my gosh. I actually think I would have been in one of the top 3 speeches if I had a better microphone last year. Because I had a microphone on, and apparently I didn't know it, because when you're up there on the stage, you can't tell. But that microphone cut out several times during my speech. Okay, I'll blame that. It was tough not coming into the top 3. I tied for 4th. Anyway, know how to use the mic, and if you have 100+ people or a large room, you're going to be using one. Audience over the age of 50, I won't have you raise your hand, but I'm raising mine. It would be good to have a louder sound. And if the acoustics are bad, oh my gosh, if you're in a long room with a high ceiling, you need to project, and it's hard to get your own voice without help to go that far. And think about your voice. When I was practicing last year for the International Speech Competition, I can't tell you how many times I was gargling with salt water and drinking throat coat tea to be sure that I could still speak the next day. So be mindful of that as you're practicing. Also know what the room's going to be like. So is it going to be hot or cold? If this room was hot right now, I'd be in trouble because this is kind of a jackety outfit. And if you're up there sweating while you're speaking, not necessarily the best presentation you could give, and you're uncomfortable, so it's harder to focus on giving the presentation. Is the lighting going to be good? Right now we have this light up here turned off so that we can see the PowerPoint. If it was on, the visual aids wouldn't be as good. So you want to think about that. See if you can go to the room first and check it out. And then make sure your latecomers aren't going to walk into a room at the front of your speech. In some cases, you can't avoid that because that's where your screen is, but see if there's a way that you can arrange the room so that anybody who comes in late can come into the back. That's a much better situation. Are you going to be competing with outside noise? Better if you don't have to, but if you do, that microphone comes into play again. Visual aids. How many times have I given a presentation where the PowerPoint failed? Be ready for plan B. Murphy looms at presentations. Murphy is around every corner. Be sure that you can give it. And you might not want to stand up in front of the projector and have your shadow all over the screen. Think about that. That's part of what you do. And Harry, there were a couple times when you were a little bit in front of it, but it's hard in this room because we've got all this stuff all around. We'd have to clear it out to make it better. So where can everybody see the visual aids? If you're doing written words, make sure they're big enough for everybody to see. If you're doing PowerPoint, make sure that less is more. Use less words. It's not about the PowerPoint. It's about you as a speaker. So the PowerPoint is just an accent. Make sure the screen's big enough. And if you're gonna do a handout, when should you distribute it?
At the end.
At the end or at the very beginning. Now, if you have it at the very beginning, people are gonna be flipping through the handout while you're speaking. So if it's not instrumental, if they don't need it as a workbook or something, I would highly recommend at the end. Thank you for that, Annette. So rehearsing. If you memorize your speech and you forget one of the words, it completely throws you off. If you know the concept of what you want to speak about, like I do tonight, I'm not reading from a speech. I've given enough speeches where I don't even need this PowerPoint, but this is what I need to do in order to get through this particular award from Toastmasters. If you practice the idea, you get up there and you get thrown off, you are in the game. You're thinking about the idea that you want to present. You're not trying to remember the next word you want to say. It really helps you become powerful, because then your brain could fill in the word that fits for that moment, that ties to the idea, as opposed to trying to remember that exact word. And get it into your head. So how many times do you think I practiced for the international speech last year? About 290 times.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that number's too low, but I recorded it and went over and over and over it, over and over and over again, in order to get the idea sunk into my head. And then when I was up there, it was just delivery of the concept. And of course you want to think about a couple of the jokes you want to give and things like that, but if you give them more ad hoc as opposed to canned, you ever heard somebody give a joke and you can tell they've given it a million times before? Doesn't make you laugh. But if they're up there and all of a sudden it comes out like it's like off the cuff, it's funny. It's really funny. So same thing with the speech. Be fresh and new each time you give it, even if it's the 10,000th time you give it. And make sure you go through the whole speech. Also, what's not in this presentation is find a mentor. Harry helped me at first. Mary Lee helped me tremendously. I had other mentors outside of this group. And Bobby, you helped me with all kinds of things related to contests. You know, I think it's important that you find somebody who's been there, done that, that can actually help you practice. How do I improve it? So you will get, if you present to a Toastmaster, you're going to get evaluation. And when I was doing my speech, the international one, I got feedback all over the place. Have you ever heard that a camel is a horse built by committee? They wanted a horse, they ended up with a camel. That's the same thing with your speech. I can't tell you how many times I revised it because I thought, oh, well, he knows more than I do, or he won the international speech competition, or whatever. I ended up with this Franken speech, like a Frankenstein monster speech. So add them gradually, make sure you believe it, and it's really part of what you want to say. I'm talking about competition right now, but even when you're giving one of these little speech, don't try to revise the whole thing every time. Get feedback every time you're giving the presentation so that you can improve it and people can tell you how well you've improved it. Some other things, have an introduction like we did here tonight. Get yourself physically ready. Go in victorious. You have already won. Get in the position of a victorious person versus somebody who's going in, I don't want you to see me, or oh. If you go in victorious, that energy is going to present itself to your presentation. Rehearse mentally, but not right before you go up on stage. The night before is a good time to just launch your subconscious mind. As you're laying there going to sleep, I got this, and just let it be. So, good luck happens when preparedness meets opportunity. I totally agree with that. And I also agree with a couple of other experts out there who have said some really cool things. Preparation is the key to success. Way back when, Alexander Graham Bell. We've all heard of him. So prepare, prepare, prepare. However, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. If you practice a speech that is not really the one that you want to give, then you're going to be really good at a speech that you don't really want to give. I can't tell you how many times when I was switching my speech, I'm like, what do I really want to practice? And ultimately I practiced the one I wanted to give. And that perfect practice is what made my speech effective. And then I want to leave you with this last message. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. So go forth, be like Bruce Lee, practice perfectly, and you will give an outstanding speech. Thank you.